Your ilk drives me nuts. A professor's words spark a constitutional firestorm.
Nearly 50 lawmakers are calling for Eastern Maine Community College to fire a professor. In their letter, the lawmakers say Dr. Carol Lewandowski allegedly made inappropriate comments to one of her conservative students. Lewandowski reportedly mocked the student's Christian faith. Former Governor Paul LePage also commented on the situation, saying the teacher would let the student express her Christian and pro-gun beliefs and wouldn't let her express her Christian and pro-gun beliefs in her class. We've reached out to EMCC for comment and we have not heard back.
This is the Maine Perspective, and I'm Drew Hoagland. Today, we are looking into the controversy of the EMCC professor that went full schizo on her student. We're talking about a state college here, not privately owned. They don't get to make their own rules. We're talking about a state-funded institution that collects tax dollars and therefore should be varied in their opinions and diverse in their thoughts. Yet here we have a teacher at EMCC, Eastern Maine Community College. See, Eastern Maine Community College is a state-funded institution. And college has always historically been a place where diverse and varied thoughts can come together and opinionate, collaborate, debate, all those eights, and come away stronger, smarter, and more intellectually fueled than before. But so much of the time, instead, it's indoctrination. You must think this way or you won't pass. Say things in this kind of manner, and that's it. And this young lady going to college now is finding that out, and I applaud her for standing up for her own beliefs and not giving in to pressure, because we live in America. You are free to have your own opinion, even if it's stupid, even if it's a mistake. This is America. You're allowed that freedom. In this case, she's none of those things. So let's go ahead and hear from this next mainstream news broadcasting, and I'll tune in with you after. Let's dig in.
A student here at Eastern Maine Community College says an opinion paper on the Second Amendment she wrote for a class was met with pushback from a professor who wrote in an email, "You clearly don't care about people as much as you care about guns."
Her response was very unprofessional and discriminatory, and if you cannot grade a student's paper because you are so offended by her topic, then I don't believe you should be teaching a college-level class.
Catherine Parker is studying early child education at EMCC. She says the assignment for her English class was to choose an opinion piece from a local newspaper about an issue they're passionate about and write an opposing opinion, but without any other stated limitations.
It was from the Portland Press Herald titled "Maine Legislature's Derelict in Its Duty on Red Flag" by Douglas Rooks, and I responded to that opinion piece.
Parker opposes the proposed red flag referendum that will be on the November ballot. But in an email, her professor, Carol Lewandowski, wrote in part, "You and your ilk drive me nuts with your hypocrisy." Parker says she runs into the issue of differing views a lot in school, but she's
always stood firm on what I believe, even though I've gotten pushback since 8th grade or so.
In an email to me, Lewandowski says the gun issue is triggering to her and that she strives to protect her students and create a calm classroom environment for every student. This piece was written for a public speaking class and would have been read aloud to the whole class. Lewandowski also says she strives to protect her students from topics she, as the instructor, deem volatile. In the closing paragraph of the piece, Parker writes,
"I disagreed with Rook's opinion that red flag laws should be in place because I care about the people of my state, including their constitutional rights, their mental health, and their lives."
Officials here at EMCC say they are aware of the situation and reviewing it in order to take appropriate action. In Bangor, I'm Jackie Mundry for Maine's Total Coverage.
Appropriate action is that she's hypocritical. She says that she's trying to protect every student. She's clearly not protecting the one student that she said, "Your ilk drives me crazy, nuts. Your ilk drives me nuts." That's not protecting that student or any of the students that may think like her that are not as brave to speak up. And it's not her place to decide what is volatile and what's not. See, I'm thinking that if this student or other students had talked about more inflammatory issues, such as Israel and Gaza, that's highly inflammatory right now. And even that should still have a nuanced approach. As a publicly funded teacher, you need to keep your emotions and your opinions to yourself. One of my favorite teachers in high school was my American government and law teacher, and he didn't take sides. Or at least while I was in school, I couldn't tell which side he took, because he was a devil's advocate to everything. If you said one thing, he was on the other. If you agreed with him, he was on the other side. And you're like, but he wasn't trying to say that he believed the things he was saying. He was just coming at it from a logical standpoint from the other point of view. And he was honestly one of the best teachers I had in public school, if not the best, actually. And the thing is in college, I went to a private Christian university, and I wrote my final thesis on legalizing marijuana. I graduated college back then. I've graduated college a couple times. I graduated that particular time in 2012. And at the time, I thought I was throwing my grade, because I'm thinking, here I am at a Christian school advocating to legalize marijuana, but I did it from a very scientific and logical standpoint. Also, I knew, based on my grades before that even if I got a 0 on that particular grade, I would still have enough to pass the entire class. So would it keep me on honor rolls or not? Like, that was a different story, but I was willing to take that risk. And I thought that, even if I get a 65, like a failing, I'll still do better than a 0. Even if I get a 0, I'll still pass. Turns out I got an A or an A minus. I don't think I got an A plus. I think there was some grammatical errors I had made. I love studying, but I also have ADHD. So, actually, yeah, anyway. So college is a place that's meant to have diverse thoughts. Suppose someone was in the Nazi party and they were advocating for Nazism. They're not doing anything illegal. They're not attacking, harassing, or persecuting any of their classmates. All they're doing is verbally espousing beliefs in Nazism. Suppose I am not that person. We are playing a hypothetical game here. Or even hypothetically, people speaking about communism or Christianity or Islam within a college setting, especially when it's publicly funded. That needs to be allowed. As long as no one's being harmed, no one's being harassed, assaulted, accosted, any of those things. Those debates need to be allowed to happen, because that is actually what college was historically all about. So to try and turn it otherwise, all you're doing is advocating for indoctrination, and that is not okay. Do not indoctrinate anyone. And that is all that is advocating for. At this point, I want to turn back to Maine Matters and tune in with Solcy and Gunner and hear what they have to say on this matter. I'll tune in at the end, give you my perspective, and then wrap things up. Okay, let's tune in.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something pretty heated. Red flag laws. specifically how they seem to clash with constitutional rights. We've got a stack of sources articles, some legal arguments, even this real-world situation up in Maine. Our goal is basically to pull out the core tensions for you. Yeah, we want to look at that friction between, public safety and individual freedom. And we'll use that recent incident at Eastern Maine Community College, the one with the students' paper that kind of set off a debate. That's our jumping off point.
Right, and what's so interesting is how that specific case, the local thing, it just perfectly captures these really strong, often completely opposing views people have about these laws. We'll try to lay out both sides, really get into the nuts and bolts of the arguments.
Okay, so let's start with the side favoring intervention, the pro-safety argument, you could say. From their perspective, a red flag law, or an extreme risk protection order, ERPO, it's fundamentally about having a legal tool, a way to temporarily remove firearms from someone who seems to be in immediate danger to themselves or, others.
Exactly. The idea is intervention. To stop a potential tragedy before it happens. It's meant to create a kind of cooling off period. Usually someone close family or maybe law enforcement, they bring evidence to a judge. There's a specific legal bar they have to meet, a standard of proof.
Like a temporary restraining order almost.
Sort of, yeah. A similar concept, but focused specifically on firearms in a crisis situation involving potential violence. A chance for assessment, maybe getting help.
Okay, but this is where it gets really contentious, right? Because the other side immediately points to constitutional rights. Their core objection is, wait a minute, you're suspending fundamental rights, the Fifth Amendment, due process, and the Second Amendment right to bear arms based on what might just be an accusation.
Mm-hmm. They often call it pre-crime punishment, the idea that you're penalizing someone, taking away rights before they've actually committed a crime. And a big part of that concern involves these ex parte orders.
Ah, right. The hearings where the person might not even be present.
Exactly. A judge hears evidence from one side, makes a decision. Critics say, someone's home could be entered, their property seized, based on a hearing they weren't part of. It raises huge questions about due process. And even if they're eventually cleared, well, the argument is the damage is done. Reputation, maybe job prospects, and being left defenseless in the meantime. That's the process, is the punishment idea.
And that ties back to the EMCC situation you mentioned?
Yes.
The worry about what constitutes a threat. Is it just actions, or could it be like certain views expressed in writing?
Precisely. Who gets to decide what crosses the line into a threat that justifies removing rights? It's a really murky area.
So faced with these opposing views, some places try to find a middle path. Like Maine, right? They have this yellow flag law, which is supposed to be different.
Yeah, Maine's approach is unique. It adds an extra step, trying to bake in more due process. Essentially, law enforcement can't just go straight to a judge for the order. First, they have to take the person into protective custody. Then, crucially, that person must be evaluated by a medical professional.
Okay, so there's a medical check first.
Right. Only after that medical professional provides an assessment suggesting danger can law enforcement petition a judge to restrict weapons. It introduces this supposedly more objective medical filter.
But even with that extra step, there's still criticism, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. The critique is that, look, the person is still being taken into custody, involuntarily evaluated, before any crime or conviction. It sort of flips the usual burden of proof. Instead of the state proving danger beyond a reasonable doubt to, say, convict someone, the individual might feel they have to prove they're not a danger just to get their rights back.
Which brings us right back to that fundamental tension.
It really does. And look, even staunch defenders of gun rights, like Justice Scalia in the Heller decision, acknowledge that no right is absolute. He wrote, "The Second Amendment doesn't mean you can carry, quote, any weapon whatsoever, in any manner whatsoever."
So the question becomes, is an emergency order based on, what seems like credible evidence, reviewed by a judge, maybe with that medical input like in Maine, is that a reasonable restriction under the circumstances?
What's the alternative? Supporters ask. If you're a family member genuinely terrified about a loved one who seems on the brink.
But the counter is, focus on what we already have. Making threats is illegal. Assault is illegal. We have existing mental health intervention laws, though those have their own issues.
Right. The argument is, deal with the dangerous behavior, use the laws on the books, focus on providing help or enforcing existing criminal statutes. Don't preemptively seize property based on a prediction.
So it really boils down to this core disagreement about the means to achieve safety.
Exactly. One side says you just can't sacrifice a fundamental constitutional right, even temporarily, based on the promise of preventing future harm. The risk of error or abuse is too high. The other side argues that in an acute crisis, temporarily suspending that right with safeguards might be the only way to provide immediate safety and save lives.
We've covered a lot of ground here looking at this clash between security and liberty. What's the big takeaway for you looking at all this?
I think it just starkly reveals this deep tension in our society. Both sides genuinely want safety, right? But they have profoundly different ideas about the acceptable path, especially when constitutional rights are involved. There's no easy answer here.
Definitely not. So as you think about everything we've discussed, here's maybe a final thought to consider. In a world where we feel like we're facing more and more urgent threats, how do we find new ways to protect people without chipping away at the very rights that form the foundation of our society? Something to mull over.
I genuinely think that is something we need to mull over. Yellow flags, red flags, or no flags altogether. What I appreciate about Gunner and Solsi is that they were able to offer us a nuanced, multi-perspective approach to one issue. And what it does is allow you as a viewer to come to your own conclusions. And that's AI. I'm a human. You should never take any one, or even like one and an AI's perspective. You should never take any one person's perspective, even a group's perspective. You should be like the Bereans in the New Testament, where you go back and you test everything according to what you already know to be true, which in their case was the Old Testament. And what you know to be true, bounce that off of the new things being introduced. And that's what I appreciate about this. I included the prompt because I wanted you all to be able to see what I was telling the AI. I don't know why I did that. It is AI. Why I wanted you to know what I prompted AI to do. I wanted you to know that I wasn't telling it to say anything. I wanted you to know that I was really giving it free rein based on the knowledge available to them as AI. And I also did a small hike and filmed that as some B-roll. I have a documentary on Maine that I want to do in about a year, once I get a full year's worth of B-roll footage. Anyway, side note. Personally, I can understand where both sides are coming from. Guns can be dangerous. They can be very scary. They can be terrifying, unpredictable, all of those things, all those adjectives that people against the Second Amendment ascribe to them. They can absolutely be those things. However, they can be life-saving, protecting, food providing. What I'm saying is a gun is a tool. Whether a hammer can hammer in a nail or bludgeon in someone's, it's all about the person using the tool. And that's where I come down with guns. And the founding fathers, the people that wrote the Constitution, I believe understood that. They understood it was a tool. And at the time they wrote the Second Amendment, they were only doing it based on the knowledge that they had with the technology that they had. But they left it open to interpretation to know that in the future, AR-15s could be a potentiality. Yeah, potentiality. And because of that, they left it open for those kind of things while allowing those things to still be owned, even if they didn't have the technology for them back in the day. They understood technology was going to advance, that all these things were going to advance. And that's why they left a lot of the Constitution up to nuance. However, they left it in such a way that there was room for nuance with a core backbone throughout. And right now we're in history where that core backbone is being questioned, tried to be broken. It's even being questioned whether it was ever necessary at all. And then I look around and I say, where the fuck else are you going to go? Where is better than the United States of America in 2025? We have our problems, obviously. So does everywhere else. And I would say everywhere else might have more problems than we do. So if you want to leave the States, if you're complaining about the States, go up and leave. Like, honestly, like I would include you guys with the illegal immigrants that are leaving freely. We'll give you a free plane ticket and $1,000 to GTFO, wherever you want, wherever you think is better. Free plane ticket and $1,000 to GTFO. And I would even support, if you're an American citizen and you're going to sit here in the States and you're going to complain, you're going to get up online and you're going to spew all this hate, bigotry, vitriol, and arrogance, ignorance. And then you're going to say, I wish I could leave. Well, here I am as a proponent to say, if you are even an American citizen and you have problems with America, I think that we should extend the free plane tickets and $1,000 to GTFO, and the taxpayers would pay for it. But you can never come back. You can never come back. That's the thing. You can never come back. So are you going to sit here and complain? Or are you actually going to do something about it and leave, understanding you can never come back? Because here in the United States of America, we have freedom, we have guns, and we protect our children. Those are three things you don't come for. Don't come for our guns, don't come for our freedom, don't come for our children. You mess any one of those three things up, and you're done. Those are three very simple rules. No, don't come for our freedom, don't come for our guns, don't come for our children. Stay away from those things. Do you, boo. Do you. So that's where I land on all of this. I appreciate having AI where they can generate Solcy and Gunner and they can have a nuanced discussion about perspectives. And I like that each one of them was kind of arguing for the other. I didn't prompt it to do that. You can see the prompt earlier in the video. Stop the video at any point to just read what I wrote before listening. And you'll see that I didn't prompt it to do that. What is written there is the prompt, short of the articles that I listed for them to reference on top of any other deep research. So AI is fascinating and dangerous, just like guns. Fascinating and potentially dangerous. It's all up to you. And at the end of the day, all of this is up to you. Do your own research. Do not just trust me. Do not just trust this video or my research. Don't even trust a handful of content creators or news articles. Do a deep dive. Just look into it. Just really have questions and curiosity and want to get to the bottom of it without having a preconceived notion of what the answer already should be. Go into it, let the facts speak for themselves, and just go along for the ride. It's hard, but it's necessary. And if you're tuning in, and if you've been an OG tuning in, then you're already doing that. And I applaud you. I'm going to cut this video here. I really try to make these videos shorter. I really do. There's just a lot to acquiesce on. And brevity isn't always the nuanced answer. All right, y'all. This has been Drew Hoagland with The Maine Perspective. Until the next video, y'all.
Ready?
It's been fun.
Fight!